Fall is here. What does that mean? Well, colder temps for sure. But what happens if you are a seller and you want to sell your home in this market? The market is ever changing, and this episode is all about sellers and how to capitalize and make the most amount of money in your sale in fall of 2025. Let's dive in.
You're listening to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast, where we invite you to check your ego at the app, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive into all things real estate marketing, social media, friendship, hardship, love, money mindset, and all the things that celebrate you as a badass boss babe.
We're here to encourage you, show up for you, give you a loving kick in the pants when you need it most, and be your soft place to land on the hardest of days. So pull up a seat at our table and get ready to be inspired and start living your best life by design.
Welcome to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast. We are so excited you're here.
Okay, girls, let's dive in. All right, Bus Bench babes, Beth here doing a solo episode, and we're going to talk all about sellers selling in this fall market, fall of 2025. How does this look different from other years? What can you expect? And what to really wrap your brain around? And what is the market doing as a whole? Let's jump into that first. So honestly, if you click on the regular news and you start watching, any old news channel, news outlet, they paint a pretty grim picture about the market. And everyone right now is so hyper-focused on interest rates. Literally, it's all everybody wants to talk about. The thing that's so crazy is a year and a half ago, interest rates had popped up to 8%. And now we're down to 6.5%, and it just keeps inching. And it's 6.5% today. By the time this podcast episode comes out, they might even be lower. And so interest rates are on this really, really slow trend down. Are we going to see rates back in the 3s and 4s? It would be a shock. I would be thrilled and shocked to see them again in my lifetime. But will we see a 5 at the beginning of the number eventually? Hopefully. I hope so. It's kind of what experts have been saying the last couple of years, but interest rates really seem to be the sticking points, and a lot of buyers are sitting on the fence because of that, even though right now interest rates are the lowest they've been in a year. So that's really fascinating to me, is that buyers keep saying they want lower interest rates, and now interest rates are lower, and a lot of buyers are still sitting on the fence. And the experts are all saying this, but I can absolutely see this. So on all of my listings that I have, I can see the analytics on the back end. I can see on Realtor.com and Zillow and my MLS, how many views all of our content is on each of our listings. We upload videos and photos and virtual tours and all of that. And I can see how many views they're all getting, and they're getting thousands. We have a condo in Edina and for sale, and the views that it's getting on Realtor.com alone, it's gotten over 22,000 views. That's crazy. But you know what? I am not surprised that it's not under contract, because the market is telling us that condos are taking about 90 days to sell, and we've only been on the market for 40 something days. So I'm not panicking. My seller isn't panicking, because I'm keeping my sellers up to date. Here's what's happening. Here's what we can expect. And I'm specifically saying in listing appointments right now, sellers, don't expect to sell first weekend. If we sell first weekend, it's going to be a dream. We are likely not going to sell first weekend, and we're likely not going to go into multiple offers. As soon as you set the expectation, then the sellers can calm down and they can go, oh, great. I had a seller a couple weeks back, and he came to our brewery event, and his house it was still on the market. It hadn't gone under contract yet. It went under contract within a couple of days after that. And he said, I'm so glad that you prepared us at the listing appointment, because I think otherwise, had you not said that, we would be a little bit nervous right now. And I said, I'm glad that we talked about that too, because I don't want you to be nervous. I want you to feel really powerfully armed with all the information, so you can regulate your nervous system. You know what to expect. You aren't thinking that I'm not doing my job. But if an agent isn't educating their clients, the client might be getting nervous about the market. So is there going to be any dramatic crashes coming? Not likely. Not what we're seeing here in the Midwest. The gurus, the financial gurus, are saying that the Midwest and the Northeast part of the country are remaining relatively strong in their real estate markets. But that's not to say that other parts of the country aren't having to like recalibrate things. There's been a lot of price reductions. There's considerably longer days on the market on the coasts right now in some areas. But all of this is really like micro influenced. So when you turn on the news and they're talking about national statistics, that can really feel super doom and gloom. But what about your specific little area, your hyper local area? Is there something special about it that nobody knows about, that once people find out, like they're like, oh my gosh, that's the place we want to live? Is it being marketed properly? Those are all the things that you got to take into consideration when you are selling your home. I think once with the buyers sitting on the sidelines, like I said, buyers, I can see that they're just sitting on the sidelines looking at homes because thousands of them are looking on Zillow and Realtor.com and MLS, and they're just almost acting like voyeurs, just like sitting on the sidelines. It's so interesting to me because I think buyers, from what I've heard, like, the last 10 years, buyers are like, oh, we can't catch a break and we can't have an inspection. We're like lost out in multiple offers and interest rates aren't where we want them to be. Well, now interest rates are coming down. There's more inventory out there for sale. Buyers are getting a little bit more of an upper hand and they're able to have a home inspection. They're able to negotiate things, maybe even get seller paid closing costs. And yet a lot of buyers are still sitting on the sidelines. So that's a phenomenon to me that is a little like, scratch your head type thing. All the experts are saying that likely in the next 6 to 12 months, interest rates will continue to tick down, which it'll be interesting to see. I hope they land somewhere in the 5s because I think that will be that magic number that will get a lot of buyers off the fence. Recently, we had someone ask about a foreclosure and they're like, oh, I really want to get a deal. Can we look at foreclosures? And I mean, I've said this since the beginning of time. Foreclosures aren't necessarily a deal. The reason somebody is selling their house as a foreclosure is because they likely can't sell it on the open market. A, because of its condition, or B, because they owe more on the house than what it's worth. So when a bank takes over a property and someone lets it go into foreclosure and stop making their payment, first of all, if a seller or a homeowner is not making their house payment, do you think they're maintaining the property? Sit with that for a minute. Like, honestly, do you think that if they don't have enough money to pay their house payment, that they're changing the furnace filter, that they're having the furnace serviced regularly, that there's home issue, like maybe an issue with their home, that they're just calling the service person to get them out there right away? They're not doing any of that. No, they're like, screw it. Bank's going to take the house anyways. I'm not going to have somebody come in, service the furnace and get it tuned up. It's making weird noises and we don't even care. That is exactly what's happening in a foreclosure. And when a home is in foreclosure and the bank takes it over, let's say the house, if someone were to put a house on the market and it was in bad condition and it was only worth $200, but they owe $250 on it, and the bank is going to try to squeeze every dollar out of that possible because the buyers likely have late fees and delinquent fees and all of this stuff piled on top of the $250 that they owe on the house that's maybe only worth $200. The bank isn't all of a sudden going to slash the price and say, oh, well, we'll sell it for $150. That isn't, the bank is in business to make money. They're not in the business to give homes away. So I think that is really a big misconception. That's not to say that there aren't some like deals. Let's use that word loosely. They are out there. They're always out there. They're really hard to find. I sold my sister and brother-in-law a foreclosure in 2020 in the height of COVID. The house had gone under contract and they were so heartbroken because it was the house they wanted. And then the agent called. I had stayed in really great communication with the agent because I knew how much they loved this house. And the agent called me back and said, hey, guess what? Buyers got cold feet and backed out. And are your buyers still interested? And I'm like, I'm 99% sure, but let me just make the phone call to just make sure that they are. And I called my sister and brother-in-law. I'm like, oh my God, guess what? You'll never guess what? Buyers backed out. are you still interested in the house? And they're like, hell yeah, we'll take it. But let's be clear, the entire thing, every single inch of the home needed work. Everything, including the septic not being compliant. And it was on acreage. It is on acreage. And so the yard was like a jungle. Like they have been working on their yard nonstop since December of 2020. Like we're in fall of 2025. So is this for the faint of heart? They didn't just all of a sudden land this gold mine home that they just moved in and it's this turnkey, gorgeous property. The reason they were interested in the property is because it was on a river and because it was acreage and because they are creative enough to see the possibility and they wanted to like make something that was their own. And they wanted a house with a little bit more character than their last house, which was a new construction. Their last two houses have been new construction. They're like, we want something that's just a little bit more interesting. And so that's what they got. And for the last 4 years, they've been working on the house nonstop. Every extra dollar is going into the house, every extra weekend hour. Now they're building chicken coops and gardens, but like it's not for the faint of heart. And it's not just like, oh, I'm going to get this screaming deal. They got a fair price on the house, considering how much work that it needed. And now, because they put so much work into it and so much of it's sweat equity, yeah, they've got a ton of equity in this property, but not for the faint of heart. So let's be clear on that. Right now, there are a lot more condos for sale than townhomes and single families. So condos here in the Twin Cities are taking about 90 days to sell. So that's something that's totally, totally different. Average days on the market as a whole, like we just take the average of all types of properties for sale here in the Twin Cities, it's 44 days on the market. And the national average is the average place is selling in 58 days. So Minnesota is doing better in that regard. Now let's talk about if you're a seller and you're like, Beth, we would love to sell in fall or winter of 2025. Like, what does that look like? And how can we take advantage? Because we look at the news and everything sounds doom and gloom. And we've talked about this before on the podcast. Earlier during the pandemic, when interest rates just plummeted, a lot of people were selling and buying new homes simply because the interest rates were so cheap and they could just buy a house and really get a lot more house for the money. And I feel like that's shifted back in the last year and a half or so. And people are buying and selling more often than not because they need to, not because they necessarily want to. So what does that mean? People don't want to be renters anymore. And, rent keeps going up every single month. And so now they want to get into a home. What about that young couple or the single person that bought their first home and then now they met their significant other, or they just got married or just had a baby and they need more space? Like that's what we see so often. What about people that are relocating? We've got a client that's moving to be closer. He's like a downsizer. He lived on the East Coast. He's had the big, huge house, but had the big career. Now he's going to just like work part-time. And he's like a young retiree, but he wants to live closer to his only child and his grandkids. And he's like a really active guy. And he's like, I'm moving to Minnesota. I've heard great things about it. And he's like, I don't know about the winters. He's like, I'll head to Arizona. He's like, if it gets to be too cold in the winters. But it's really important for him to be closer to grandkids. We're seeing that a lot. A lot of our listings are being bought by the grandparents that retired, moved away, and then all of a sudden they're like, gosh, we really miss our family. Or the kids got relocated to Minnesota for their jobs, and then the grandparents follow suit. We're seeing that more and more often. So in that case, is that an actual need? Well, I mean, I would say being close to your grandparents, your grandkiddos is probably a need. That was something that would like really fill your heart. Is it an absolute necessity? Maybe not. But like we're seeing people moving for those sort of reasons. We're working with a lot of downsizers where either the actual person downsizing to, selling that big house that they raised their kids in, and now they're ready for one level living, or maybe they're transitioning to senior care. We're getting a lot of those calls, but then we're also getting those calls from our clients for their parents and our clients for their grandparents. So we have some other some past clients that I sold them this really cool property that had an auxiliary dwelling in the back of the house, like a structure that was all permitted by the city, but it hadn't really been finished. And they didn't know what they were going to do with it, but they loved the idea that they could do something with that down the road and finish it and have it be additional finished square feet. Well, now it's going to be the greatest spot for grandpa and grandma. So grandpa and grandma raised my client, the husband, and now grandpa and grandma are going to be moving in with them. And the grandparents get to be close to their grandkids and their great grandkids. So that's super special. And that multi-generational living is on an uptick. I'm sure you heard me talk about this on the podcast before. I live in a multi-generational house. When we built our house, Mark's an only child. His parents live in Arizona, and the only reason they come to town is to see us and spend time with us. And they had talked about getting a place in Minnesota. And we just kept thinking, and we started talking with each other. Mark and I had conversations with one another. And I'm like, well, if they get a place somewhere else, who's going to have to maintain that? I mean, that's probably going to be me. I'm going to have to pop over there and keep an eye on it. And so we're like, okay, how can we do this different? How can we do this better so it like makes sense for everybody? So we built multi-generational. Our whole entire lower level of our house is set up for my in-laws. They have their own living room, dining room, kitchen, bedroom, and 2 bathrooms and laundry. And it's awesome. They have their own space. We have our own space. You know, my mother-in-law will cook dinner and say, hey, dinner's going to be on the table at 6:30. It's awesome. Or I'll say, well, okay, I'm going to cook dinner tonight. You guys come on up, bring a bottle of wine up, and why don't you just hang out with me while I'm finishing dinner? And then we'll, throw something on the grill and sit on the back deck. And it works so perfectly for our family. And maybe it wouldn't work for everybody's family, but it's something to really consider, especially if you get along really well with your in-laws. Well, you as a seller, what are specific things that you can do? So like, no matter what your situation is, you're like, Beth, we want to sell. Maybe you're going to buy, maybe not. Let's just talk about the selling side of things. What can you do this fall to really position yourself in the perfect position to really get the most amount of eyeballs, to get the most amount of traffic? And that's what it's all about. You have like the more showings you get, the more open house traffic we get, the better our likelihood is of getting an offer that you're going to absolutely love. So where does that start? In my opinion, that starts with the curb appeal. We've also talked about this before on the podcast, is that when the agent is standing at the door, fiddling with the lockbox to get the key out, and the buyers are standing behind the buyer's agent, what do the buyers do? What are they looking at? What they're looking at is the curb appeal of your home that you're trying to sell for top dollar. So maybe you always come and go out of your house through your garage. I know that's the case at my house. I never use my front door. But when I went out there this morning to water my flowers, I'm like, ooh, gross. This needs to get cleaned up out here. There's some cobwebs. We have a cute little frog that loves to like stick itself on the side of the house right by the light. I'm sure it gets to eat all the bugs at night, but then it leaves these little tiny turds and they're on my mat in my front door. And I'm like, that's disgusting. So you got to shake that stuff out, shake that crap out, literally. So what are those things that you can do? Like power washing the front of your house, making sure there's no cobwebs. What about putting a cute front mat? Those cute mats they sell at Target are not big enough for most doors. So I like to layer them in the aisle at Target. They'll have like a bigger, cute rug that you can put down. And then you put like the decorative little sisal one that says hello, or, only come if you have wine, or whatever that little thing is. But like the layered mat is it's super cute these days. What about putting flowers out front? I just went to Costco last week and they have the mums out already, and they're so cheap, and they're the big, gigantic, gorgeous mums. What about putting mums out? Edging and trimming. I see this so often, especially in houses in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And they have like those old front sidewalks that come up from the street up to the front door. Well, those sidewalks get smaller and smaller and smaller over time because the grass grows over the sidewalk. You know what looks so good is when it gets edged, a crisp, fresh edge line with the edger. I've seen people do it with like hand trimmers. I've seen people do it with edgers, but trimming that to be this crisp, fresh line along the city sidewalk and also along your sidewalk up to your front door. All of that factors into the curb appeal. And it seems so elementary and it seems so small and easy, but it's those things when you walk up and you're like, whoa, we've seen 5 other houses today and none of them have this curb appeal. Maybe your shutters need a fresh coat of paint. Do you have flower boxes? Or maybe your home could use flower boxes on the front. There are so many homes that I drive up to, and it's occupational hazard for sure with my interior design degree, but I drive up and I'm like, gosh, this house is cool, but it's so flat. Like it feels so one-dimensional. What can you do to give your house some more dimension? Is there a spot that needs some like accent paint? Does your front door need paint with a different color? Do you need shutters? Do you need flower boxes? What about a little arch or canopy over the front door? Like, what can you do to just really impact your curb appeal so it stands out, especially stands out from all the competition? Mulch. Can we just have a conversation about mulch for a second? I honestly, like, red mulch should just be banned. I don't even know why they still make it. It's so ugly. It's so ugly. If you're a red mulch person, I'm not even going to apologize. Red mulch doesn't look good on anyone's property. I'm not even a fan of the natural colored mulch anymore. I used to be a natural mulch girl. Nowadays, black and brown mulch are where it's at. And every home improvement big box store sells black and brown mulch, dark brown mulch or black. And it looks so much more sophisticated when you drive up to a home. It's not like, oh, that red mulch that just screams at you. It's almost like that white rock. And you're like, white rock kind of only looks cool in St. Pete Beach in Florida because everybody's got white rock. But that red mulch, it's jarring. It really is usually a disconnect with most color palettes on homes. So put some fresh mulch down. And buy dark brown or black, please. How about making really intentional improvements? Instead of saying, okay, my kitchen needs to get gutted and I'm going to put $100,000 into my kitchen. This is where an awesome agent comes into play. And you do a walkthrough of the home and like, okay, what is going to get us the most bang for our buck? What is really going to make this property stand out and really shine? Well, is that just putting new hardware on the kitchen cabinets? Make sure everything's scrubbed top to bottom and it's really, really, really clean. I think buyers would prefer a spotless home over a fully updated home. So let me say that again. Buyers would prefer a spotless home, spotless top to bottom versus a home that's fully 100% updated. Are updates nice? Yeah. But if you walk into an updated home and it's filthy, buyers usually just get that yuck factor and they're like, no, this is disgusting. I don't want to buy a house that has someone else's filth. So scrub your house top to bottom is so key. But can you just swap out a few light fixtures? You know what a great place is to find dirt cheap light fixtures is the Habitat reuse stores. So people remodel their homes, they pull out light fixtures that are perfectly fine, but maybe they're just tired of them, and they bring them and donate them to the reuse store. And then you go to the reuse store and find an awesome light fixture for $50. Or how about Facebook Marketplace? There's so many places to find really cool, like one-of-a-kind, gorgeous light fixtures that you don't have to spend retail for. And if you're selling your house anyways, how about you just find something that's cute and it doesn't have to break the bank and it doesn't have to totally be Serena and Lily designer type light fixture. Decluttering is so huge. It seems so obvious, but then you go into homes and you're like, have you ever decluttered your house even once? A lot of agents will say to take down all the personal photos. If somebody has a ton of family photos, like just walls and walls and walls of photos, I'm like, yeah, take down some of that. But honestly, I'm in that school of thought that I think some personal photos in a home make it feel really not like a house, but really like a home. There are so many staged and vacant properties out there nowadays. Sometimes you walk in and some of the stagers are so good, you almost can't tell if somebody lives in a home or not. But those homes where there's some personal photos out and some personal effects that are really intentional and look really great, those can be things that really draw at a buyer's heartstring, and they walk in, they go, this really feels like a home. Like somebody lives here, somebody loves this home, and we do too, because it feels so good. Staging. I love staging. Staging is so powerful. Virtual staging is sort of like my second favorite thing, but if given a choice, I strongly encourage all of my sellers to have homes fully staged. It's not as expensive as what you think, and the return on the investment is huge. And homes can sell for up to 25% more money that are staged, because when a buyer walks in, the staging helps evoke emotion. And the other great thing is that maybe a home is a little bit dated. But if you bring staging in that is a little bit more current and on trend, sometimes you can downplay some of those dated features about a home with professional staging. So there's a lot of reasons why staging is powerful, but truly at the end of the day, it evokes emotions in buyers, and buyers usually make decisions based on emotion. Price. Let's talk about price. We just got to rip off the Band-Aid and talk about price. I think right now, buyers wish homes were priced as if it was like 2016, 2017. And I know sellers wish homes were selling for prices back in like 2022, 2023, where things were flying off the market, top dollar, mega multiple offers on crappy houses that were not clean, not depersonalized. They didn't have good curb appeal. But that's not the market we're in right now. Homes are taking longer to sell. Like I said, the average home is taking 44 days to sell in Minnesota right now. And on a national average, it's 58 days. So what can you do to have your home sell faster than the average? Pricing it right out of the gate is the biggest thing. Not getting overzealous on what your price is. And honestly, homes that are even priced slightly under market value are the ones that are going off in multiple offers. I worked with some buyers recently, and there was a house that popped up for sale in their ideal location. It was this really cute mid-century modern. It had beautiful lines, and it had a lot of dated features. A lot of great features. The floor plan was perfect for them, with a screen porch, but it had an older detached garage. The yard was a little bit rough. The kitchen had been updated, but probably 10 years ago. It had 80s wallpaper in the bathrooms, but it had really, really good bones and that mid-century vibe that so many buyers love here in the Midwest. And so buyers, I'm like, it's going into multiple offers. And sure enough, it was. I did all my due diligence with the agent. I, built the rapport. Our lender made the call. Like, we did everything, all of the steps to get our offer to stand out. And we wrote what we thought was a really solid, clean offer. And we didn't even stand a chance. The house was listed at $450, which felt low. I think that if I would have listed that house, I probably would have listed it like $490 to $499, just based on the location and the style of the home. But the $450 price really drew in a ton of buyers, and they ended up getting 14 offers. Sellers got 14 freaking offers, and within 2 days of being on the market. And two of the offers went $200,000 plus over asking. So they were asking $450, and two of the offers were over $650. And my buyers did not write an offer that high. Truly, the home is not worth that price. Not in my opinion. It needed work to get it up to snuff. And could you put the work in and made it be a way higher priced house? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it would have taken more money. So my buyers felt really good about the fact that we kind of held our gun on the price the max price that they were willing to pay. But I think that house went into mega multiple offers because it was priced where it was. And, it attracted more buyers that maybe wouldn't have looked at the house had the price been like $500 or more. We just had a listing recently, and it was one of those homes that it was really, really hard to comp out, like a true one of a kind. Never seen a house like this before. The minute I walked in, I was like, this house is amazing. And holy cow, this is going to be hard for me to find comps for it. The house was so amazing that we ended up getting 6 offers on it. And the offer went over $1 million. The final sales price went over $1 million. But I think that if I would have priced the home over $1 million to start out with, we wouldn't have gotten the amount of eyeballs. We wouldn't have gotten the amount of showings. We wouldn't have gotten the amount of open house foot traffic. And we ended up getting 6 offers, and 2 of them were over $1 million. And so that worked out great for my seller. But I don't think, had we started the price over at $1 million, I don't think it would have sold for what it ended up selling for. So there's a lot of strategy involved. There is a lot of like really, really looking at the comparables. And back in the day, I would always look at 6-month comparables, or maybe I'd have to go out a year. Now I'm looking at comparables like 60 to 90 days because the market is shifted just enough this summer where it feels a little bit weird. It's a little bit wonky. Buyers are a little bit uncertain about things. So how can I position your home so we can get the most amount of traffic at open houses, the most amount of showings, and get the most amount of offers possible, which will result in the highest sales price for you? That is pricing your home correctly right out of the gate. Another interesting stat that I found that maybe you'll find interesting too is that we have talked about pocket listings on the podcast before too. We actually had 4 homes earlier this spring that we sold off market or like bought and sold off market for our clients. And for those specific clients, it actually worked out perfect. It was exactly what they needed. It was how it was meant to be. But if you want to sell your home as a pocket listing versus going on MLS, you will likely make 17% more going on MLS than if you had your home off market and just were marketing it as a pocket listing. Other things for sellers, I would say in this market is really just stay flexible and adaptable. You have to listen to your cues on feedback that comes in from open houses, feedback that comes in from showings. If there's something that pops up and it's something that you could handle easily, can you jump on it right away? You know, we got feedback from an open house on one of our listings, and it was something about like the house is spotless, but the door going out to the garage has some like the paint is chipped a little bit. And it was so nominal. I mean, it wasn't like that in the grand scheme of things. 2 years ago, that wouldn't have even been a factor. But in this market, I gave that feedback to the seller and she's like, got it. Within 24 hours, she's like, doors painted, looks awesome. So it was something that was super easy for her to do, but it was a door they come and go out of all day long. And just like after a while, you just don't even see it anymore. But that was something so little, but all of a sudden it just took things over the edge and just made everything really perfect. What about offering creative incentives? Maybe you tried to sell your home before and it didn't sell. Are you offering incentives that make it enticing for buyers to want to buy it? Maybe you could offer 2-1 buy down so a buyer can get in for lower interest rates. Maybe you're willing to pay closing costs. Are you willing to pay the buyer's broker's compensation? What about maybe the home needs new flooring and you didn't put new flooring in because you just don't want to, but you're willing to offer a credit for that? Well, do buyers know that that's a possibility? Like when buyer looks at a property on Zillow, does it say it in the comments like seller is willing to credit buyer X amount of dollars for flooring of their choice? Well, like those are things that are enticing to a buyer. So are you offering some sort of incentive if you need to do that in order to get your home sold? And something that I also think is really special and important that as a real estate agent is that I'm marketing the lifestyle of the area. We have this awesome little condo in a part of town that has this walkability and it's close to a lake and it's close to mini golf and paddle boats and you can walk to Starbucks and Whole Foods and walk to yoga. Well, if someone is looking on Zillow and they're not familiar with the area, do they know that that area is walkable? Maybe, maybe not. So me as an agent, I need to be doing all of the special things to like highlight that. But maybe your agent is an awesome agent, but they don't know all the little nuanced things that you love about your neighborhood. I sold a house years ago and the seller said, there is a special little sidewalk. When you walk down the street and in between two of the houses, there's this little sidewalk and it's a shortcut that gets you to this big walking preserve. And you know what? I didn't know that little sidewalk was there. I knew about the walking preserve, but I thought you had to walk around. No, you can access it from this neighborhood. So that was something that was really important for my seller to share with me because then that helped me market the neighborhood better. And especially I don't know, me as a single, as a woman and I'm out walking solo in the mornings, like I want to know where I can go have like a safe walk and have it be like this little secret walk that no one else knows about it. And I have the whole entire trail to myself. So those are things that sellers, if there's something that you really love about your neighborhood, but maybe it isn't the most obvious thing, and maybe your real estate agent is an awesome agent and they don't know about that thing also, make sure to highlight what you love about your neighborhood so that can get put into the marketing. And maybe that is the one thing that's going to sell your home this fall. So I could be talking about this subject for hours and hours, but in order to keep this podcast at a length that you would actually listen to, we're cutting the list off here. So please reach out if you have any questions about what it could look like. If you're here in the Twin Cities and you want to talk about selling your home, gosh, I would love to talk to you. I would love to schedule a time to come to your home and really formulate a strategic plan that works specifically for you, because this is not a one size fits all market right now. Not even sort of. But if you're somewhere else in the country and you're like, gosh, I really would love to work with a team like the BPR Experience, reach out to me. I will connect you from all my networks and coaching companies over the years and all the things that I've done in the real estate space over the years. I'm connected with so many rock star agents all over the country, and I would love to connect you with one wherever you live. So until next time, Bus Bench babes, keep your face off a bus bench and keep being the badass boss babes that you are.
Okay, girls, are you feeling as inspired as we are? We're over here cheering you on because you just finished another episode of the Girl, Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast.
If you want more, head over to girlgetyourfaceoffabusbench.com for show notes and more episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. They mean the world to us, and they're what keep us going.
Girl, thanks for being here.